Alright, what is up guys, Azura here, and today we are finally here to take a look at our usual end of month tier list, this time for G set 15, being what is realistically the last main set of G. The only thing we have next after is our Lord and Savior Fish, and maybe something else after that, but who knows. But today we are here to take a look at what the meta looks like after G set 15 of G. And honestly, I can say I think the meta has shifted quite a bit. And as you see here, if you compare this to what I had last month, I cleared out some of the clutter. Off the top of my head, I think I got rid of Vanquisher. What else did I get rid of? I don't even remember what I got rid of. The only one I remember off the top of my head that I got rid of is Vanquisher. But you see here, you can just go back and compare some of the clutter I got rid of. Some of the decks I just didn't think were very good. So without further ado, let's just get started with the list. So the only deck that I have here, realistically, that goes into this bottom tier is probably Blasters. This deck is just not very good. It just does its thing. It just biggest issue is that this deck can't kill you very well. It's very good at pushing. Can definitely cheese you with crits too, but issue with this deck is it just can't kill, and that's why it is here. So that's it for this tier. Honestly, I think that's it. Maybe I'll reorganize some stuff afterwards. Rogue, this is kind of hard too, huh? I think Gurgit can probably go here. Yeah, I think it's honestly just Gurgit, and Gurgit just kind of does its thing. Some decks, if Gurgit can wall your deck, Gurgit's doing its job. If it can't wall you out, then he's not doing his job. And a lot of decks don't really care about, or rather, the decks this month that are good don't care too much about Gurgit. I don't think I've also seen a single Gurgit this month on ladder, so take that as you will. This deck is probably still playable. You can probably bump it up here if you want, but I don't know. I just haven't seen this deck at all, so not a lot I can say about it. I haven't played myself either, so take that as you will. And tier 2, I think a bunch of decks actually dropped down to here, so I think Fenrir actually deserves to be here now. Messiah definitely goes here. Altmile, Asha. As you can see, I don't put a whole lot of thought in this before I actually record it. All my thoughts are immediately as I start recording. So, you know, a little thing. I'll leave it as this for now, I guess. Yeah, something like this. So, reason why I'm bumping Fenrir all the way down here is because I feel like Fenrir just loses really hard to the new decks now. Gears, as to nobody's surprise, if you've kept up the game at all whatsoever, you'll know Gears are one of the best decks right now, and Gears are very good at putting out many intercepts, and Fenrir cannot deal with that. Also the fact that Gears can stall you out, and if you play the stall game with them, they get 2 turns, and then you die in those span that 2 turns. So Fenrir just does not play very favorable to that. I can't imagine Fenrir does very well against Chaos either, considering Chaos ripping cards out of your hand every turn now with many multitude of hand locks. Shiranui also destroys your hand, and you just have decks that can just kill really fast too. Obviously, you have your the boogeyman here. Haru can kill you really fast. Davos can still kill you. Luar hits giant numbers now, so I think Fenrir just kind of falls off just because of the fact that these other decks are just better now. So the game is just at a higher power level basically. So that's why I think Fenrir is here. Messiah is actually, once the deck gets going, I think the deck is good, but the fact that this deck has a horrendous early game is what makes this deck really bad in my opinion. So in the TCG, there's the grade 2 gaming. Sometimes you don't ride up to so you prevent your opponent to stride. Obviously you can't do that in 0, but grade 2, there's still a sense of grade 2 gaming in this game now. Is the matter of like how can you commit on your like grade 2 turn, like when both turns are on grade 2. Like, can you commit on those turns? And Messiah as a deck just cannot do that. If you've seen anyone play Gears, you'll know Gears are very good at just spitting out their entire hand early to prevent taking damage and force your opponent to commit. Messiah as a deck just cannot do that because all the grade 2s it wants to hold are pieces, and if you put down all your pieces and you don't redraw into them, you don't do anything on your on like your first ride and onward turn. Obviously, that has a lot of draw power, but the draw power is tied to after your first strike turn. So you still need pieces on that first strike turn beforehand because Messiah draws at the end of the turn. And some cards are in the battle phase too, but same thing. You don't draw during the main phase, so you can't draw into your pieces. So yeah, Messiah just lacks from a very, very bad early game, I think. So that's why Messiah's there. Alt Mile is the complete opposite. I think Alt Mile has a really good early game, but Alt Mile didn't really receive too much in the way of cards that give you like a super explosive top end now. Like obviously before, Alt Mile was like the premier Unga Bunga deck. It had the best kill turn, but again, power creep is a thing in these games, and I think other decks just have gotten a better kill turn now. Their ability to push is probably better. The ability to kill is better, but Alt Mile is still around the same. Your kill turn isn't really a whole lot better than what it was before for the most part. But the deck did get some new stuff, so I do think the deck is still pretty solid. But the deck just feels super fair compared to other decks now. The deck also just doesn't draw cards at all, aside from draw triggers. So the deck also does run into issues of not drawing guards sometimes. So that do be an issue because dying is not very good, and Alt Mile actually just dies sometimes. So that's why I think I'll put it here. So if you look at it like this, I think Alt Mile and Messiah are like literally polar opposites. Like Alt Mile has a super strong early game, but a not so good end game. But Messiah has a really weak early game, but a really, really good top end. Because I forgot the only thing I'm saying about Messiah is that Integral is a crazy card. Even though obviously you can shuffle heals back in opponent's deck and let them draw more cards than they had before, but Integral as a card is just absurd because you can randomly just win a game you had no business winning because of Integral. So yeah, Messiah has an amazing end game but terrible early game, vice versa for Alt Mile. And finally we have Asha. Asha just kind of doesn't do anything. To be perfectly honest, the deck just kind of it just doesn't do enough. Your best game ender is still Primavera, I think, and that's just 3 big checks, and most decks are doing more than that at this point. The deck can push Velhima, whatever the new GR its name is, as pretty good for pushing, pretty okay for game ending too. But yeah, the deck just doesn't do enough. This deck notably has a really good Link Joker matchup because this deck can put cards on circles back to the deck, so you can put lock cards back. So really good for that. The deck is also just really good at putting out like a whole board of resist, but the majority of decks just don't care about that. So because of that, because most decks don't really care about resist, this deck just isn't too good anymore, or at all, or even with the new support. So that's why it's here. It's still playable, still not like the worst thing in the world, but it just doesn't feel good to play at all. So yeah, so that's it for playable tier 2, and then finally for tier 1, actually quite a lot of decks here, but I think you probably still go here, you probably still go here, you go down here. Oh, I realize I have 2 chaos. Ignore the second one. There's only 1 chaos here. Just ignore the second one. I think Lure probably goes here, and I'll leave it at this for now. But I'll just go over these decks first. So Overlord, still doing the same thing that it was doing last month. It pings you, it hits you, it restands, has big rears. Just an overall solid deck. Oh yeah, this part is. I guess I'll arrange it a bit. Probably something like this is probably right. Luwar is definitely the best deck I hear. Probably probably something like this. Yeah. So. I'll tell you. So yeah, Overlord's still just doing the same thing as doing last month. I didn't think it was up here in the top last month either, even though it was super popular. But this month Overlord is like basically nowhere to be seen. It's actually a pretty rare occurrence to find Overlord now. Not extinct per se, but definitely not nearly as common as it was last month. And I think it just goes to show that Overlord was not actually that good even last month. And I think here is a very good spot to put it. It'll still win games. It still has tools to deal with basically every deck in the meta, but it just isn't like particularly special. And 0 damage angels are still here. I think the deck is still relatively solid. You don't see this very often. You didn't see this very often last month either. I haven't played this deck this month either. But apparently this deck won like a qualifier against like a whole slew of gear players, and I'm pretty surprised because I would think that this deck loses to gears. But I guess this deck has a solid match against gears ? I have no idea how they won, and I'm actually quite interested. But seeing as the deck actually has results, or has a result, I will leave it here, even though I have no idea how that player got that result, but good for them, I guess. But yeah, 0 damage angel still a very solid deck. Some decks still don't have outs to it, so yeah. Goes here, probably dies next month because of the new harmonics buffs, which I might talk about in a different video, but that's neither here nor there. So that's it for angels. Thavas I have bumped down here for the sole purpose of this deck eats a whole lot of shit to Gears. This deck, I think, cannot survive in a meta where Gears is one of I think the most common deck you'll see. And turns out if you have even one Napada in the back row, this deck cannot go into Alexandros, which is the deck's best stride by far. So because of Gears' existence as being the most popular and probably the best deck, Aquaforce just cannot survive. They can't go into their best stride at all. They have to go into other things, and that really, really sucks for them. So because of that, Aquaforce, without a doubt, will be demoted down from the top slot it was last month. But I guess everything else, I think the deck is still relatively playable. It can still win against everything else that isn't Gears, but I think it still struggles against some other decks. Even though Aquaforce has a bunch of resist, even if you build your deck towards a bunch of resist, you will still lose to Chaos because Chaos will lock from your hand and you won't feel very good about that. Shiranui will rip your hand, so it'll take away all your pieces, which you obviously need in Aquaforce, and they'll kill your board, so doesn't do too well against Shiranui either. And yeah, because of those reasons, I will bump Thavas down just because Thavas just doesn't play as well as they did last month into the meta. And finally, for the new decks, I think Chaos is actually quite good now. Your one very, very bad matchup, the very obvious one is Messiah. I don't think Messiah is too good, nor is it too common, so Chaos can't thrive off that. Asha is probably your worst matchup by far, but I think Asha also not very popular, and Asha itself just isn't a very good deck, so it's fine. But I think Chaos is the fact that Chaos just has a bunch of ways to lock out your hand now to basically force cards onto the board as locked just really screws with some decks, and yeah, it's just really good because it can lock from hand now fairly consistently. So because of that, I think Chaos is definitely near like the tail end of tier 1. I definitely think you could probably argue it to be down here as well, but I think Chaos is solid enough that I would at least consider it a competitive deck. And, the final deck of this tier is Luard. Luard now no longer solely focuses on a 0 damage game plan. The deck more often than not will actually hit you in the face now. They will actually try to kill you, and that's all because Drag Abyss plus Dragfall can just retire both ints very easily and just go face. And then second stride onwards, your Drag Abyss makes your entire board huge, as well as you have a bunch of extenders. So the deck is actually really proficient at killing you now. Biggest issue with this deck, in my opinion, is that you cannot search your actual combo extenders because they're all grade 2s, and Luar can only search grade 1. So I think that is the worst thing about the deck, and that's actually why I think the deck doesn't belong in tier 1. The deck also has, but the deck can still pivot back to a 0 damage game plan if needed. Some matchups will actually want you to play a damage denial game plan. Obviously, again, next month you can't do that anymore because of harmonics, but regardless, Luard is just a very versatile deck that can play both game plans in the same deck now, and I think that makes the deck really strong, and that's why I have it at the top of competitive tier 1. And finally, for the top, I will put, you definitely belong there. These two I'm still kind of iffy on where I want to put them, but I guess I'll just go over Jet first. This deck is insane. Jet Z literally made the deck busted beyond all imagine. To put in perspective, if you didn't watch the actual deck profile for this video, I'm sure I've said it there, but I'll say it here again. Jet Z itself is a +3 every single turn, which is like absurd to think about. If you run Howard's a +3, Stride for Free is +1. Spinning an opponent's rear is a -1 to them, so technically it's still a +1 in card economy overall. So +1 there, and then you get a card out of that, so that's another plus. So that's 3 total. +2 to your opponent, -1 to your +2 to yourself, -1 to your opponent, so +3 in total. And yeah, this Jet. I honestly think the reason why this deck is so good is because of Jet Z. Heritage is just a cherry on top. But that doesn't take anything from Heritage being a stupid card either. A guaranteed extra turn once you hit third stride is absolutely insane as well. And the best part is this deck actually has ways to extend on that extra turn. The 2 Lego Dragons, the Unicorn. You should play stands in the deck. You can flip those. But yeah, this deck is just does a little bit of everything. And even in the games where you don't go into Heritage, this deck can still kill you by second stride super easily too, because that can push really well with Avenir if needed. If not, you can just like spin a rear with Jet Z and then just push for like 2 damage or something, and then kill with Avenir or Gearnex or some combination of those two. So yeah, this deck Jet Z is insane. You basically have a guaranteed win on third stride, and then your other strides leading you to that third stride are still insane. So yeah, Gears, very, very good deck. I think it is probably by far the best deck this month. I think it is best deck in the game at the moment, at the very least. And this is the deck that I will 100% put into here. And finally, we have these two decks. After a little bit I think Shiranui probably does not belong in the same tier as Jet, but Shiranui is still a really, really strong deck. Shiranui now is still a dominant deck, obviously, but the deck has many ways to rip cards out of your opponent's hand now. Zanki, your new grade 3, will rip a card out of your hand every turn. Rine will also rip cards out of your opponent's hand. And even in the states where your opponent's hands all cards and you can't rip anything, it's still very good hand knowledge of what your opponent has in their hand. If you can't rip anything, obviously their hand is all cards. And some decks just cannot deal with getting their hand ripped every single turn. I think the main decks that can't deal with that are the decks that don't stride for free. So basically, not Jet, not Lure, and I guess not Angels. But decks that can't stride for free every single turn will eventually at some point struggle to deal with Shiranui ripping your hand every single turn and just taking cards away from you. Because you can also kill board too, obviously. Zanki also having a skill on ride also makes it so you're going first isn't the worst thing in the world either. So overall, it's a very solid deck. I think it's actually I wouldn't call it like a toxic deck, but it definitely has a very toxic playstyle where if you can't deal with what this deck is trying to do to you, or you don't sack your ass off with draws, this deck will eventually just take away all your resources, and then once they hit third spread, they Drachma you, and you just lose on the spot at that point. So this deck is very, very good. I think it is either at the bottom end of here or definitely the top of tier 1 competitive. So I'll leave it here for now. But yeah, Shiranui, very, very solid deck, and the deck I've been enjoying the most this month. And the last deck here is Hari. I still think this deck is good, but I also just have not seen this deck at all this month, and I don't like playing this deck myself, so I always haven't played it myself either. But I don't know. I honestly don't think Hari's in the same tier as Jet. I think Jet is just stupid. So I honestly think I will put Hari. I even think Shiranui is better, to be honest. Yeah, I think I'll actually put Hari in the lower end of tier 1 competitive, like after Shiranui. But yeah, Hari still does Hari things. They'll still kill you. But yeah, I think these two decks are actually dumber than Hari. Hari is just a monkey aggro go face deck, and is really, really good at doing that. But I think the gimmicks that these two decks bring, as well as also being able to just go face if they need to, is just better than what Hari does. So yeah, that's it for this month's tier list. A lot less decks that cleared out some clutter. But as you hear, relatively healthy format. I think Jet's the only deck that's like a little bit could be use a little fixing, but hey, Jet or Gears finally get to be good for once, and it lasts like 2-3 months of the game. So I guess it's fine to let them have it. But yeah, I think Gears are definitely the best deck in the game right now. And then you have a bunch of other decks that are like, in my opinion, worse, but still very playable. So yeah, that's it for this month's tier list. And obviously you can just ignore this. This is just I placed two Chaoses by accident. You can just put both here if you want, but yeah, I'll just leave it out for now. Or I guess we'll put it on. But yeah, that's it for this month's tier list. I'll tell you guys what you think about this down below in the comments. Like and subscribe and all the good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.